School District 2 looking into the future by hoping to fix the past.
We typically have over 200 students a year drop out, which is way too many.
A new push underway to get Billings High School dropouts back in the classroom.
Plus problem properties.
If places aren't habitable, then we shouldn't have people there. If we need to evict people, how do we evict people faster?
I dive back into flop houses as residents push for action in hopes of bringing crime down.
And beef, it's what's for dinner.
There's definitely more cows in Montana than there are people.
A restaurant owner and rancher team up to get Montana meat back on the table.
The MTN 530 News starts right now.
From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 530 News.
Well, good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Russ Riesinger.
And I'm Andrea, Lutz. Tumultuous teenage years can be hard to navigate, but decisions made when you're in high school can frame your whole adult life.
And one such challenge is dropping out of high school. The Bureau of Labor Statistics shows that workers who have a high school diploma earn more than 25% more than workers without one.
Now, Billings School District 2 is trying to find out a new way to bring kids back into the classroom to finish their education.
MTN's Jackie Coffin takes a closer look at Project Engage.
At his job at Western Municipal Construction, Gavin Morrison gets to try out a trade that he really enjoys.
Yeah, I've always wanted to be like a mechanic of some sort.
The 17-year-old started here about 3 months ago.
My cousins actually worked here, and they pushed me to get a job here.
After his options in education were no longer working out.
So I took my sophomore year at Skyview, and then after that I went like halfway through and then just stopped. I felt it wasn't for me.
One factor not in question was love and support at home.
Tell me about your mom.
She's outstanding. She's a good mom.
And Gavin's mom feels the same way.
The baby ones. She's my mini-me. Like, literally, I could have the worst day ever, and that kid will give me a hug, and I will forget everything.
They've stuck together through the hardest parts of life.
This one is my stepdad's tow truck. He was killed in an accident. It's his name, Brandon.
It's been a hard year, but we've made it through.
And Amanda has stuck with Gavin when school became a challenge.
It was kind of rough because he had severe ADHD and ODD.
In struggling to stay in school, Gavin is not alone.
We typically have over 200 students a year drop out, which is way too many. One student is too many.
In Billings School District 2, the high school dropout rate has ebbed and flowed over the last 5 years, settling around 260 students per year before and after the pandemic. This is about 4% of the Billings High School population, which is on par with numbers from around the state.
We realized that a lot of the students that had withdrawn and dropped out of school didn't know what their options were. And so we held a luncheon and we entitled it Project Engage because we wanted to re-engage those students back into their education.
What started as a luncheon turned into a bigger idea to start a school devoted to students seeking their high school equivalency degrees through an alternative structure.
Which in some settings may be an alternative high school, but we're going to call it an opportunity school because it's an opportunity for students to still earn that high school diploma in a different path. And that's something we're working on to get ready in the fall of 2024.
The Opportunity School is one of 3 school projects the district is hoping to fund through the state's new charter school allowance.
In our first year, I'd love to have about 100 kids.
Building off of Project Engage, which has been working for Gavin. He starts classes on Tuesday as he works towards his high school equivalency degree.
I can go to college with it, which that's one thing I want to do is go to college.
I hope that he achieves every goal he has, and I know he will.
In Billings, Jackie Coffin, MTN News.
A 16-year-old boy is arrested and charged in connection with one of the recent drive-by shootings in Billings. This one happened Saturday around 8 o'clock. No one was injured in the shooting, but police say a car and an uninvolved house were shot up by bullets in the 1000 block of North 24th Street. Suspect is now charged with felony criminal endangerment, criminal mischief, and discharging a firearm inside city limits.
Tonight, Billings residents push for stricter regulations surrounding nuisance properties. As we told you last night, police often refer to these problem properties as flop houses, and we've seen the costly results to taxpayers through rising violent crime. But as I found out, there is now a push for more to be done from one South Side man who's also finding solutions.
If you ask Eric Basie about his neighborhood,
Love the community, love the neighbors, the history.
But part of loving it is also acknowledging its struggles.
There were some extreme situations.
Situations where police were called to the home across the street on more than one occasion.
Watched some guys get stabbed in the car. There's gunshots.
Police often refer to properties such as this as flop houses, where there's little oversight from the landowner on who's taking up space in the structure.
It's just people utilizing the space for whatever their end goal is.
But Basie believes solutions have multiple parts.
We have a lot of negligent, absent landlords.
And placing pressure on the city to tighten up laws.
If the hands of the code enforcement are tied, they can only do so much. So for those of us that are living here and are homeowners, that's frustrating because that's impacting our community. It's impacting the safety, the way it looks.
It's the same frustration shared by Paul Waller in the Billings Heights, where junk is spewed about the yard at the house next door. He worries what could come next.
Very disconcerting.
Complaints about these properties go to code enforcement, and Officer Chris Simpson says cleanup happens in stages.
Everybody that maybe commits this offense or a homeowner that has an accident or whatever still has the same rights, remedies, and privileges as the person next door that's fed up with the way the property looks.
But for someone who works and lives in it, Basie has a passion for finding solutions, even taking me inside a new income-qualified housing project set to be completed in January.
This is CLDI's latest project. It's called Tapestry Apartments,
which will give 27 families a place to call home.
We're providing housing solutions for everybody, but we can do it in a way that's actually elevating the community as a whole.
When it comes to flop houses, there's no easy fix.
A lot of the occupants have nowhere else to go.
But recognizing much needed change could be the right step forward.
Let's start off with the Stockman Bank weather cam in Miles City, where obviously we've had some rain showers. In fact, just very recently, if you notice the flags as well, still some of the breeze even downtown, and we're going to see more of that tonight heading into tomorrow. But the problem is we have winter weather advisories into effect, especially once we get to the east of Miles City and then dotted across the area. We can see some of those roads turn slick as the temperatures drop. Additional snowfall and then periods of wind on top of it could cause some travel concerns, especially into the eastern plains of Montana. But as we get into the rest of the evening here in Billings, we're going to be looking at temperatures today at 51 for the warmest reading. We picked up 0.06 of an inch of precipitation. That's the most in a month.
For most, teaching and learning a language is fairly straightforward.
But for a class of 7 Indigenous educators, the process of sharing linguistic knowledge from one generation of lifelong learners to the next is more complicated.
Our Marcus Kakova reports on how these languages are being preserved.
Educators and learners are one and the same here on the MSU Billings campus, where over the last 3 days, they've gotten together to share the latest ideas about teaching Indigenous languages to preserve their culture through future generations of Indigenous tribe members.
When the message is to be heard at ceremony, you'll hear an elder say,
It allows them then to reclaim their identities.
Individuality and collective traits are developed by educational experiences.
It feels good to learn something new.
These educators are part of a teaching alliance aiming to revitalize languages on the brink of being forgotten.
Right now we're at a critical point. My journey has been to help bring back Indigenous languages.
The 3-day Intertribal Language Summit is an opportunity for native language speakers to exchange their most useful teaching methods.
It gives some of these people in attendance an idea of what other communities are doing so that they could network and collaborate and possibly share resources.
There's 132 flashcards in here designed to help you pronounce Cree the proper way. And that makes language learning much easier when you know when to go up, when to go down, and come back to the default tone.
Offering a chance for future generations of native learners to keep their culture alive.
It allows them then the opportunity to reconnect to their language. We develop a greater capacity then to deal with the tribal traumas that impact our students today.
Marcus Kakova, MTN News.
Still to come on the MTN 530 News on Q2, back on the table. A renewed push underway to get Montana beef back into local restaurants. That story is next.
And later on the hardwood, the annual All-American Indian Shootout is set to tip off at the Metro. We'll get you ready for the action coming up in just a bit.
The MTN 530 News continues right after this.